Maybe you think you struggle to be self-disciplined because you are too tired or too busy, you don't have the right habits, or maybe you don't think you have enough willpower. But I think the truth is deeper than that. As I was reflecting on the topic of self-discipline, I realized that those are actually just symptoms. It's not necessarily that you don't have enough willpower. Maybe you even told yourself that you don't want to be that kind of person. Sometimes I think we try to find excuses for our lack of self-discipline. Maybe you told yourself that you don't want to be that rigid, or maybe you want to be more flexible and just take life as it comes. But the reality maybe is that you don't really think you can be that person. And that's what's really been holding you back. Let me explain what I mean. Your actions or inactions really stem from what you think or don't think about yourself. A lot of times we think our actions depend on our external circumstances or our feelings, but if you dig deeper, you actually realize that the way you act primarily comes from what you think. And what you think actually grows from what you believe of yourself, who you think you are. This is why identity is so crucial, because it's not just about who you are or where you think you belong to, but it literally shapes your thoughts, it shapes your actions, it shapes your behaviors. And as I was reflecting about this, I actually realized why identity is such a crucial central message in the Bible. One of the core messages of the gospel is that when you accept Christ in your life, you become a new creation, and that is not by chance. There's a very specific reason why God is asking us to become a new creation, because when you change your identity, that is when you are able to start changing your mindset, to start thinking differently and therefore act differently. But it is almost impossible, I would say, to change how you act if you don't change what you believe about yourself, if you don't rethink your identity. So if you know you've been struggling with exercising self-discipline and it just went on and on for a very long time, you've tried everything, you've tried implementing new habits, you've tried changing different things in your life, but you just feel like you still find it difficult to exercise that self-discipline and move forward, then it might be because deep in your heart you don't really believe you can be that person. Maybe you've had an idea to start a business for the longest time, but you just struggle to get started, you struggle to continue, you struggle to be consistent. And maybe it's not because you don't have the right habits or you don't have enough time or you're too busy. Maybe it's because deep in your heart you don't really believe you can make it. And so automatically your subconscious tries to sabotage you in many different ways that show up as lack of self-discipline or procrastinating or similar things. So really, to address the root cause of these symptoms, you have to start working on your identity. You have to redefine your identity and who you think you are. So how do you do that? Well, you do that by starting to redefine what you think about yourself. A lot of us grow up with different thoughts that we have about ourselves that are actually thoughts that we got from other people. Thoughts that other people said about us that started defining our personality, started defining our identity and who we think we are. But they're not really us. It's just stuff that we picked up along the way. Comments from people, maybe negative comments or negative criticism, or different types of things you've heard along the way in your life that weren't just comments or thoughts. They were things that actually planted a seed inside of you that started to grow into a plant and into a tree and started really defining who you think you are. I don't know the actual science behind this, but they do say that even as children, if a child is told from when they're really young that they are a certain way, then they will become that way because that's what they think of themselves. If you tell a child that they're shy, eventually they will grow up to be shy because that's what they've always heard about themselves. And so that's how it works for all of us. If you kept hearing certain things as you were growing up, then those things probably stuck with you and they started shaping your identity. They started shaping what you think about yourself. And so really, to start addressing those discipline struggles that you are now facing in your life, you have to start redefining your identity and what you think of yourself. What people told you so far isn't necessarily the truth. You have the choice right now to start shaping your identity in a different way, but it is a choice that you have to make, and it does take some internal work, obviously. But that's also one of the reasons why I love the message of the Bible, because it brings you the hope of becoming a new creation. It gives you the chance of becoming something different. It gives you the chance of becoming more than you just thought you were when you were born. And to be honest, from my personal experience, I think the Bible has one of the most powerful messages in terms of redefining our identity and redefining who we think we are. Because when we look at the Bible, then we realize that we are God's creation. We are made in His image and in His likeness. We are loved by God. We are redeemed. We have a purpose, and we have the capacity to do good and bring a positive change and influence to other people's lives. And I think these are very important and powerful messages that we have to incorporate in our life in order to redefine our identity and understand better who we really were created to be. When you start to understand who you were created to be, when you start to understand that you are God's creation, you are not an accident, you were made with a purpose specifically by the God of the universe, and there is the capacity within you to do good and bring positive change in this life and then positively influence other people's lives, then when you are able to make these concepts yours, when you are able to really start identifying as a child of God, and you are able to start shifting your mindset from what you've been hearing all of your life so far, and instead identifying yourself as someone that God created with intention, with a purpose, and that can be a positive influence in this world, then you are really able to start changing the way you think about yourself. You are able to start changing your thoughts and ultimately your actions as well. There's an incredible difference between someone who starts working on something with the belief and faith that they will be able to do it, and someone that doesn't really believe they will be able to do it. That core belief has a massive impact on whether you are ultimately able to exercise self-discipline or not. It might seem like a trivial thing, but it isn't really. Most of it goes down to whether you really believe you can do it, and that core belief actually stems from what you think about yourself and what you identify as. Do you identify as someone who is self-disciplined and who can see it through when they start something, or do you identify as someone who struggles to keep up, struggles to get the things done when they started, and so on? And I mean, you might tell yourself that it's not something that you can change, because you would be lying to yourself if you told yourself that you are self-disciplined and that you can follow through on the plans you've made. But really, that's because you're looking at your identity as being shaped by your previous actions. Because you have previously failed to be self-disciplined, or you have previously failed to complete certain projects that you started and so on. But if you start acting from the root cause, if you start changing your belief of yourself, if you start reshaping your identity, then a different set of actions will start to flow in your life. You will start to be disciplined. You will start to exercise self-discipline. You will start to follow through on your plans, because your core belief of yourself will have changed. And you know, there is this misconception that we think that as human beings we are static, but we are not. Even if you believe the lie that you are not self-disciplined and have not been self-disciplined up until this point, you still have the power to change it. Just because you haven't been self-disciplined in the past doesn't mean you will never be able to be self-disciplined in the future. It is really a matter of choice. It is a matter of belief, what you believe about yourself, and it is a matter of choosing who you want to become. So instead of thinking, I have to do this so I can become, start thinking, I am this, therefore I do this. So I really hope this video might have given you a different perspective on why you might struggle with self-discipline, and especially that it might have given you a solution to what you can start doing differently to start seeing some change. The truth is, you have to start changing the narrative in your mind, and your actions will follow. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you have done in your life that has helped you to better exercise self-discipline. I'm very curious to find out. And yeah, I really hope this video was useful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.